Hey, how's it going? I'm recording this at night because I've been so busy recently, which is also why I haven't been uploading, but I've had very little free time to myself and to sit down and really collect my thoughts. But a lot has been going on, or at least to me, because it's all I see on my Twitter feed and social media and people I talk to and stuff like that. It's giving me a lot of anxiety. I wanted to shoot this one from the hip because I want to be as genuine as possible, just because it's something I care about. You know, I have points written down here on my Google Doc, but there's a lot of emotion, I think, behind this video that I'm going to probably not show because that's not very productive, but I want to talk about it. I made a video a couple months back talking about the current state of gaming, and I think how I didn't like a lot of people were so doom and gloom about modern gaming, and I think I still stand by a lot of what I said in that video. But I think the industry changes and things move very quickly in entertainment, but especially video games. You know, video games are entertainment, but they're also technology, and technology moves and progresses very quickly. So that video is only a couple months old, but I think it's already a little dated, and this is essentially a little bit of a follow-up to that. If you've been on Twitter at all, you've probably heard about the mass layoffs that have been happening by both. I think the two main companies were Riot Games and Microsoft, who Microsoft is kind of an overall term, but they've laid off a ton of people in countless studios, probably a bunch that you are familiar with, specifically a lot of the studios working on Call of Duty. I think the number, at least at the time of recording this, is around 5,000, and I don't know the exact number, but this has really angered me. And I think that modern gaming is still in a good spot. You know, we are coming off of one of the best years, if not the best years, gaming has ever had. 2023 was genuinely amazing. I think the last year that we had that was as good as this was 2016 or 2017. I think 2017. You know, Breath of the Wild, Sonic Mania, Mario Odyssey, so many great games. Last year we had Alan Wake, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I actually just completed, and it's such an amazing game, Mario Wonder. We were in a good spot, and I think we still are, but I'm a little worried about the future. These layoffs are really sad for a couple reasons. And I want to get one aspect out of the way, which is I think something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but I do think is important. And that is, you know, these layoffs are usually, said to be eliminating redundancy. And they use very clinical terms to describe letting go of real people from real jobs that they depend on to take care of their families and to survive. I mean, that's a fact. That is what a job is. I don't like how it is described as that. I don't think enough people are talking about the very real and very human aspect of this and the effects that this is going to have on, I think, a lot of people. You know, when we're talking about 5,000 people, and also just to state, this section of the video is something you can apply to layoffs in general, especially ones like in this instance where a company like Microsoft will literally a day before this news broke announced that they are now a $3 trillion company. This is not a company that is about to go bankrupt. This is a very successful megacorp that just bought another company for $70 billion. And now a bunch of real people who had no say in that matter are affected. And that is really serious. Out of those 5,000 people, I guarantee there is a couple people there that probably just had a kid, that just bought a home, that really depend on the healthcare benefits that their job may have given them. And now, because of this merger, something that I necessarily wasn't even entirely against, I have to admit, they're now in a lot of trouble. And I almost feel guilty for that, even though this is not my issue. I didn't cause this merger to happen, but I wasn't staunchly against it like maybe I should have been. I am a little bit selfish because I am an Xbox player. I'm mainly PC and, Switch, but I do have an Xbox, and I like my Xbox. I think the Xbox 360 is the greatest console of all time. Maybe that's a hot take, but it's what I grew up on, and I love it. Now this company that I don't necessarily love, but I do have a little bit of loyalty to, has hurt so many people, and there's part of me that does feel a little bit embarrassed about that. And I don't know if I'm going to buy the next Xbox console. I really do. I think that by the next generation, I will probably be a full PC gamer and probably have, whatever Nintendo console is out at the time because, no matter how much I don't like the current state of console gaming, I do care about the stuff Nintendo is releasing. And I think that, at least when it comes to this stuff, Nintendo is doing better. I think they treat their employees a lot better than companies like Microsoft, than firms like Embracer Group. Obviously, they have their own issues as well. They are a company. Companies aren't people. They are conglomerates that need to meet a quota, and I think people get cut because of that. I think a lot of the executives at the top of these companies care a lot more about appeasing their investors than whatever new college student they just hired to create Alan Wake 3 or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just making up a random game. But imagine being one of the developers who just lost 30% of their team, 60% of their team, or even more than that in some cases. Imagine the morale in that studio, knowing that, tomorrow you could go in with a little note on your desk telling you to pack up your stuff. Imagine how that affects future games. If you don't really care about the political, whatever aspect of how it really affects these people's lives, imagine, your favorite game. Call of Duty is in a little bit of a weird spot because they just lost hundreds of employees. If you love Call of Duty, you should be a little worried right now. I could sit here and, go on this, spiel about, human rights and whatever cringe stuff that you're not here to listen about. But at the end of the day, I think if you're watching this video, you probably like video games. You probably play video games. And I think that these layoffs that are the result of meeting this quota, meeting this unrealistic standards that companies have of constantly growing, it's going to affect you, and it's going to affect the games that you like. And I think it's important to pay attention to this stuff. The morale in these studios is probably really bad right now. I can't imagine that the game you're currently working on is going to come out better because you now have a ton of more work and you're also fearing for your own job. And the people that did get laid off, there are people that need to keep making a living, so they're going to go looking for jobs elsewhere. There are not enough positions to rehire all these people. They're going to have to find new avenues in the industry or leave the industry entirely. And that cuts out a ton of future game developers, cuts off a ton of future projects that could have been great games, all to meet, at the end of the day, a quota to appease investors. And that sucks when, I guess if you're like me and you view video games as an art. I've said that before, and I know that it is maybe a little cringe to view something that most people associate with Fortnite as art. But I do genuinely really care about this stuff. I think it'll get worse before it gets better, which sucks. Even though I haven't talked about it, I have been aware of this bubble that I think is going to pop. And I do still think the future of video games is great. But I think we're in a very worrying period right now. A lot of stuff I said in that last video about modern gaming still stands. But I do think we're in a weird time. I don't know if there's necessarily anything that we can do, which sucks. Now, obviously, you can go out of your way to not support certain companies, even though I know most people won't do that because, these layoffs sucks. But at the end of the day, are you going to stop buying Call of Duty? For most people, the answer is no, and that sucks. I, for the first time ever, didn't buy this most recent Call of Duty because I thought it was a bad game. I have bought Call of Duty pretty much every single year. I can't remember the last Call of Duty I didn't buy, which I know isn't a flex, but that was one conscious decision I made. And trust me, I had those urges. I saw people playing. I saw YouTubers uploading videos on Call of Duty. I was like, oh man, I kind of want to play it because it is generally one of my favorite series, but I made the conscious decision to not purchase that game. I also don't know if I'll be buying the next Xbox, like I said earlier. That is a decision I am really going to have to think about. I don't know if I'm going to buy the next PlayStation. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think that as a consumer, and I'm assuming the people watching this video are also consumers, that's really the only leeway that we have in this scenario, which really sucks. But I do think it's good to be conscious about this stuff and make decisions based on what you want to see out of the industry. If you only play Fortnite and Call of Duty and that's what you love to do, go for it. There's not really much I can do to stop you. And I'll be honest, I am also pretty similar to you. That's what I do. I was literally playing Fortnite yesterday. And not that Fortnite really has anything to do with this, but that's just a large game that I can point to. This is also a little point, but there was talks surrounding the last Game Awards and how there was no mention of the layoffs that happened in 2023 last year. And there was a lot of people, myself included, who were a little disappointed that there was no mention of that, because that is one place where mentioning that could make a difference, could spread the word about how much of a rough spot we're currently headed towards. Even though my opinion means nothing, I'm going to be even more disappointed if there is absolutely no mention of it at this year's Game Awards or Summer Games Fest or any sort of major event that is talking and celebrating, supposedly, in quotes, celebrating games. If there's no mention of this, I'm going to be really disappointed. And I know that, the Game Awards is barely celebrating video games. It's essentially the new E3 with 30 billion ads. But if they're going to call themselves the Game Awards and be this sort of beacon of celebrating video games, I'm going to be really disappointed if this is not brought up. Because like I said, there is a real human aspect to this. I probably could have sat here and really nailed down some key points, but I just kind of wanted to talk about the stuff that's on my mind because as cringe as it may be, it is really giving me a lot of anxiety. Thank you guys so much for watching. See ya.